Welcome. Let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're tackling one of the absolute most critical, high-stakes procedures you'll face under NABET guidelines, and that is laboratory intimation for primary data collection in EIA studies. Look, this isn't just about shooting off a quick email to a lab. We are talking about securing the entire foundation of your environmental consultancy project.
If you're an EIA coordinator or a functional area expert, you really have to ask yourself, where does the domino effect of data failure actually begin? Like, what is the single point of failure that can completely compromise an entire season's worth of baseline data?
Well, the answer is simple, but honestly, it's devastating. It all falls apart when you fail to properly intimate the lab. A delayed, vague, or poorly documented intimation doesn't just give you bad data. It triggers a total chain reaction. Under NABET rules, this mistake can end in a massive nonconformance for your whole organization and literally lead to the cancellation of an expert's accreditation. No pressure, right?
So, to make sure you're totally bulletproof, we're going to quickly break down the stakes of data integrity, responsibility, and timing. The checklist Part A for field prep, the perfect intimation format, mandatory enclosures, and finally, Procedure B9 for quality management.
Let's start with Part 1, the stakes of data integrity.
To put things in perspective, the QCI scheme version 3 literally spells out the ultimate nightmare scenario. It says, submission of any false or misleading information shall lead to the cancellation of approval. That brilliantly illustrates the severe stakes we're dealing with here. Keeping perfect field logbooks and running a flawless intimation process isn't just bureaucratic red tape, it is your lifeline. If a lab collects data without a documented, formal directive from you, that data is instantly compromised. And trust me, to an auditor, compromised data looks an awful lot like misleading information.
Moving on to Part 2, responsibility and perfect timing.
Knowing the rules is great, but knowing when the clock actually starts kicking is what separates compliant organizations from everyone else. Your timeline here is incredibly strict. The exact second your organization receives the terms of reference, the TR, from the ministry or SEAC, boom, the clock starts. Immediately, the EAA coordinator has to consult the FAEs, pinpoint the exact sampling locations, decide on sample types, and issue that formal intimation to the lab. You absolutely must finish this entire sequence before a single piece of field monitoring begins. You just cannot play catch-up with compliance.
And the person driving this bus? That is the EIA coordinator. The EC is the central authority, and their leadership here is non-negotiable. They plan the EIA, allocate TOR points, and direct the accredited lab. When the EC and the FE select those sampling locations, they lay the entire foundation for the study. The lab doesn't get to self-direct. They are relying 100% on the EC's formal instructions. Okay, Part 3, Checklist Part A and Field Prep.
Before the lab team even thinks about stepping foot on the site, you have got some crucial internal prep to do. Checklist Part A gets super granular. First, you've got to verify that the team has all the required administrative tools. We're talking adequate baseline data formats for air, water, soil, and noise. You need exact location maps like topo sheets and site visit formats prepped in duplicate. Basically, you are building a bulletproof paperwork infrastructure before a single boot hits the mud. And it's not just paper. You have to rigorously account for physical sampling gear and personal protective equipment, everything from pH strips and depth samplers to safety helmets and goggles. Seriously, imagine the absolute misery of trekking 3 hours into a dense field site only to realize somebody forgot the GPS unit. Checklist Part A is specifically designed to make sure those kind of nightmare operational delays never happen.
Which brings us to Part 4, the perfect intimation format.
So you've prepped internally, now it's time to formally communicate with the lab using Checklist Part B. This is the actual intimation letter going to the lab's technical manager, and it has to explicitly map out 3 core things. Number 1, project identification. Clear project name, exact location. Number 2, temporal scope. Is this monitoring period a specific month or a whole season? And number 3, technical instructions. A hyper-detailed message defining the exact scope of work. Structure it this way, and the lab operates with zero ambiguity.
Next up, Part 5, mandatory maps and enclosures.
Listen, that perfectly formatted intimation letter is completely useless without the mandatory enclosures attached to it. The lab needs a study area map defining the exact boundaries. They need a comprehensive list of sampling points and the specific technical parameters they're testing for across air, water, and soil. But most importantly, precise GPS coordinates for every single sampling station. Why? Because GPS coordinates guarantee ground-level accuracy.
If you want to avoid a massive headache during a NABET audit, GPS traceability is what makes your primary data fully defensible.
Let's look at Part 6, Procedure B9 and Quality Management.
All these tactical steps we've talked about, they don't just exist in a vacuum. They roll right up into your mandatory quality management system. Procedure B9 explicitly mandates 3 things: identifying the scope of work, ensuring quality assurance by the EIA team, and defining the records maintained by both parties. This proves that the intimation process isn't just a nice-to-have best practice, it's a rigid, auditable requirement. When an assessor cracks open your QMS, they are checking if your intimation process complies perfectly with Procedure B9.
It really comes down to a strict division of labor. Think of it like this. The EIA coordinator and the FAEs, they're the architects. They define the scope, select the locations, and provide the quality assurance. The laboratory, they're the builders. They handle the physical collection, preservation, and analysis, but they only execute work based strictly on the blueprints, the intimation you provided. Maintaining that clear boundary is exactly how you protect the integrity of your data generation.
Finally, our conclusion: securing the baseline.
At the end of the day, securing baseline data is arguably the most vital phase of any environmental impact assessment. But by following the chronological steps we covered, jumping on that tar immediately, consulting your experts, rigorously running through the Part A prep checklist, and sending a flawless Part B intimation with GPS enclosures, you transform what feels like a dry, bureaucratic requirement into a literal shield for your project's integrity. So I'll leave you with this. Before you send out your very next lab request, take a hard look at your internal processes and ask yourself, is your next lab intimation truly audit-proof? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.